After I kept complaining about being broke, my friend had got me a job at a privately owned hospital. They were looking for nurses, and I had a passion for helping people, so this opportunity seemed perfect for me. Once I passed the interview without any bumps on the road, they asked me to come in for work the next day. On my first day at work, I was greeted by a really nice doctor, and I shadowed him for my whole shift. There were no strange occurrences, so I thought I had gotten really lucky with landing this job. Until after a week of working there, I was asked to work the night shift. I had no reason to say no, so I stayed after hours that day to continue my shift. However, I didn't expect the hospital to have a completely different vibe at night. All the patients were asleep in their rooms, so the hallways were completely silent, except for my footsteps. It felt really eerie to be alone in the hospital, so when I heard noises from the morgue, I played it off as just me being paranoid. But the longer it continued, the more I came to terms with the fact that I wasn't actually alone. I opened the door to the morgue slowly, peeking in my head to look for any signs of anyone inside. Coming to the conclusion that it was empty, I opened the door fully and stood in the doorway. One of the boxes was open, with the body laid out. Approaching the body, I quickly shut it and got out of there as soon as possible. The incident was definitely weird, but it wasn't enough for me to go home completely. On the way out of the morgue, I encountered a tall man in a black suit, wearing lots of accessories. I greeted him, and then he put his hand out for a handshake. I thought it was a little bit odd, but still shook it out of politeness. When I took his hand, I felt like we made some sort of deal. Once I tried to look up to meet his eyes, he turned around and left. When he was completely out of my sight, I realized I didn't ask him what he was doing here. He definitely wasn't a patient, and visiting hours had already ended for the day. That was the last weird occurrence I had that night. Yet the next day, I worked in the dementia ward, and another strange event happened. Although the majority of the patients who resided there weren't really right in their mind, a woman who talked about a man in a black suit visiting her every night caught my attention. I asked her to describe him in further detail, and she described the exact man who I saw during my night shift. That kept me on my toes, and I had an uneasy feeling in my stomach for the rest of the day. I knew she wasn't imagining it, because I saw him too, but why was a well-dressed man lurking around the hospital? I continued the rest of my shift, while keeping an eye out. During my lunch break, I caught my coworker rushing to the dementia ward. When I stopped to ask him what happened, he explained that a woman had passed away there just a couple of minutes ago. I felt my blood run cold when I realized it was the woman who encountered the well-dressed man. Before he left, I asked my coworker if he had ever seen a man in a suit lurking around at night. He looked confused and simply said he had never interacted with someone like that after hours. He told me he would talk to me later, then rushed back off into the direction of the dementia ward. Goosebumps went down my back as I turned around and saw the man in the tuxedo. We locked eyes for a second. I stood there frozen and watched as he faded away. No way. Am I going crazy? These occurrences kept happening, so I confided in my coworkers about my weird experiences. None of them seemed to believe me, and all of them gave me the same advice. He's not real. So every time I saw him, I repeated these words over and over. He's not real. He's not real. He's not real. Looking from the eyes of my coworkers, I knew why they thought I was crazy. Always mumbling to myself, seeing things that weren't actually there, and having strange thoughts. I was declared to be insane a month into working at the hospital, and my parents admitted me into the dementia ward. And somehow, I ended up staying in the old woman's previous room. The man continued to appear there every night, making me believe I was truly insane. However, the man visited me one last time. He reassured me that I wasn't insane, that he was real, but that I wouldn't live to tell the truth. He unmasked himself and reached out his hand one last time. And he finally gave me his name. The Reaper.